I never asked to be the only silent mind on Earth, but that is exactly what I became the day the Zorathian landed in my backyard. It was late October 2029, the kind of damp, wind-bitten evening that makes the Nevada desert feel like the surface of Mars. I was 28, freshly unemployed after the university cut the entire linguistics department, and living in my late grandmother's single-wide trailer outside Rachel, population 57, if you counted the dogs. The nearest neighbor was 3 miles away, which is why I noticed the light immediately, a cold violet pulse that hovered above the creosote bushes like a star that had lost its way. I stepped onto the porch with a flashlight in one hand and a cast-iron skillet in the other, because that is the level of preparation you achieve when your life has recently imploded. The light descended, folded itself into a shape that hurt to look at directly, and resolved into something almost human. Tall. Translucent skin threaded with slow-moving galaxies. 4 arms, the lower pair folded like a praying mantis. Eyes the color of nebulae. I decided on he later, when language failed me entirely, stood perfectly still, while the desert wind whipped his silver cloak around ankles that ended in soft light instead of feet. He tilted his head and spoke without moving his mouth. The words arrived inside my skull the way music does when you're half asleep. "You are quiet." I tightened my grip on the skillet. Most people lead with hello. Hello is unnecessary when I already know what every other human on this planet is thinking. But you, a pause, as though he were tasting the absence of something. You are a vacuum, a dark star. I have crossed 43 light-years chased by the roar of 8 billion minds, and for the first time in 91 rotations, I hear nothing. He sounded relieved. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt seen in a way I hadn't since my grandmother died. I lowered the skillet. "Do you have a name? In your phonemes, something close to Kael'tharyn. You will not manage it. K it is." He, K, smiled. Or the Zorathian equivalent. The galaxies under his skin brightened, swirling faster. "You may call me what you wish, Silent One." I have never been given a name by someone whose mind did not scream it at me first. That was how the strangest relationship of my life began. Part I, the silence between species. The governments found out about him within 6 hours. Satellites, conspiracy forums, a blurry video from a trucker on Highway 375. By dawn, black helicopters circled the trailer like vultures. Kay simply stepped into the sky and vanished, leaving behind a single instruction inside my head. I will return when they stop looking. They never really stopped, but they did get bored. After 3 weeks of interrogating me, Dr. Mara Ellison, failed academic, no priors, no social media, no living relatives. They decided I was either crazy or useless. I let them think both. Kay came back on a night when the Milky Way looked close enough to touch. He materialized inside the trailer this time, ducking so his head wouldn't phase through the ceiling. "They still watch you," he said, nodding toward the ridgeline where I knew a drone sometimes hovered. "But they cannot hear me when I am near you. Your silence cloaks me. I was drinking tea that tasted like regret and instant noodles. Lucky me. I'm a human signal jammer. You are the only place in this entire system where I can think without pain." He said it simply, the way someone else might comment on the weather, but the galaxies under his skin dimmed, as if remembering something awful. I set my mug down. "What exactly are you running from, Kay?" he told me. The Zorathians evolved on a world with no silence. Their telepathy was absolute, planetary, woven into the fabric of their atmosphere. Every birth, every death, every private shame and exultation echoed across the globe in real time. They had no word for privacy because the concept was as alien as silence. Their art, their philosophy, their wars, everything happened in a constant cacophony of minds. Kay was born with a mutation. His range was galactic. He heard not only his own world but every sentient species within a radius that kept expanding. By the time he reached adulthood, the psychic noise of the universe was driving him insane. He built a ship, fled, and spent decades hopping from dead moon to dead moon, chasing the quiet that only empty space provided. Until he detected Earth. 8 billion minds, loud and bright and gloriously chaotic. He thought it would finish him. Instead, he found me. one human whose thoughts were inexplicably, blissfully blank to him. I listened to all of this while the kettle cooled and the desert night pressed against the windows. When he finished, the trailer felt too small for the size of what he had survived. "So I'm your noise-canceling headphones," I said. He laughed, actually laughed, a sound like glass bells underwater. "You are the first person whose company does not hurt me. That is more than I ever hoped to find." Part 2, the year we hid in plain sight, we developed a routine. Kay could not stay long on the surface. The combined psychic weight of humanity gave him migraines that manifested as solar flares under his skin. So he kept his ship cloaked in orbit and visited me for a few hours every night. Sometimes he brought gifts, a stone that sang when you held it, a fruit that tasted like childhood summers I'd never actually experienced, a shard of his homeworld sky frozen into crystal. In return, I taught him how to be human, not the big things, those he already knew from skimming surface thoughts of passing drivers and conspiracy theorists. I taught him the small, secret things non-telepaths take for granted. How to knock before entering a room, how sarcasm works when no one can hear your real opinion underneath the words, how sometimes people say I'm fine when every cell in their body is screaming the opposite, and the polite thing is to pretend you believe them. He was a terrible student at first. "Why do you lie with your mouth when the truth is louder?" he asked after I told a telemarketer I was busy. "Because sometimes the truth is none of their business." He turned that over in his mind the way a jeweler studies a flawed diamond. Your species is exhausting, takes one to know one. But he kept coming back. We took to driving at 3 a.m. along the extraterrestrial highway in my rust-flaked pickup. Windows down, music loud enough to drown out even thoughts. Kay sat in the passenger seat wearing a hologram that made him look like a too-tall Scandinavian backpacker. His real arms phased through the dashboard whenever he got excited. I discovered I could make him laugh until his disguise flickered. He discovered that I cried at the end of children's movies, something no human had witnessed since I was 9. We never talked about love. The word felt too small for whatever was growing between us, but we orbited it carefully. There were close calls. Once, a black SUV followed us for 40 miles. Kay reached over, laid one translucent hand on my wrist, and the SUV abruptly turned around, its driver suddenly convinced he'd left the stove on in Tucson. Another time, a military jet scrambled to intercept what they thought was a UFO on radar. Kay simply phased the truck halfway into another dimension until the jet gave up. Each time, he grew quieter afterward, galaxies dimming. "They will never stop hunting me," he said one dawn, watching the sun bleed pink across the desert. "And sooner or later they will decide you are how they catch me." I wanted to argue, but I'd seen the drones. Part 3, the offer. It was February when everything tilted. We were lying on the hood of the truck, counting satellites, when Kay spoke the sentence I'd been dreading for months. "There is a way to make you truly safe." I waited. "Come with me. My ship can sustain a human indefinitely. We could leave tonight. Find a quiet planet. There are still a few. You would never have to be afraid again." And his voice, for the first time, trembled. I would never have to be in pain again. The desert wind smelled of creosote and distant snow. I thought about my grandmother's trailer, the way the floor creaked in the exact same spot every time I walked to the kitchen. I thought about the students who would never again fall asleep in my lectures on dead languages. I thought about every noisy, messy, private human moment I'd spent my whole life guarding inside my skull, and how Kay had never once overheard a single one. I sat up. "And Earth will keep screaming, but you would be free of it." I looked at him, really looked. The galaxies under his skin were barely moving now, like a heart too tired to beat properly. "There's another option," I said slowly. "You could stay." He made a sound like wind through broken glass. "I would die, Mara. Slowly, painfully. The noise is already worse than when I arrived. I'm not asking you to stay on the surface." I took a breath that tasted like goodbye. "I'm asking you to let me fix the noise." He stared. I told him about the research I'd been doing in secret for months, ever since I realized what my silence actually was. A rare neurological anomaly, miswired mirror neurons, an overactive default mode network, something the scans called telepathic null field. Scientists on Earth had studied people like me exactly twice, both times unsuccessfully because we have no idea we're different until something like K shows up. But I've been mapping it, I said. With your help, I think I could build a filter. Not for the whole planet, that's impossible. Just for you, a way to turn the volume down without turning you off. Hope is a dangerous thing to give someone who has spent decades without it. Kay's entire body flared so brightly I had to shield my eyes. You would do that for me? I'd do it for us. Part 4. The Quiet War. It took 4 months. 4 months of smuggling equipment past government watchers. 4 months of Kay phasing through walls at Los Alamos to borrow tech that didn't officially exist. 4 months of me soldering circuits at 4 a.m., while he sat beside me reading my handwritten notes aloud in that bell chime voice because for the first time he could. The device looked ridiculous, a crown of copper wire and salvaged Zorathian crystal, powered by a car battery in pure desperation. We tested it in the desert under a new moon. Kay put it on. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then he fell to his knees and cried without sound, galaxies racing under his skin like auroras finally set free. Mara, he whispered, and it was the first time he ever said my name out loud instead of inside my head. They're still there. I can feel them all. But it's like hearing the ocean from inside a seashell. Distant. Bearable. I started shaking. Relief, terror, joy, I couldn't tell which. He stood, walked over, and very carefully hugged me with all 4 arms. I felt his real heartbeat through the illusion of the Scandinavian backpacker, fast, alien, alive. I love you, he said into my hair. I never needed to read your mind to know that. The silence was only how I found you. Staying is how I choose you. Epilogue. 10 years later, the trailer is gone, replaced by a small adobe house with a garden that shouldn't grow in the desert but does, because Kay sings to the tomatoes in frequencies humans can't hear. He still wears the crown sometimes, when the psychic noise spikes, solar flares, elections, World Cup finals. Most days he doesn't need it. We upgraded it together. The patent is filed under a fake name in a country that doesn't exist. The governments eventually classified us as an unsolved X-file and moved on to bigger mysteries. Little green men tourists still drive past sometimes, hoping for a glimpse of the Rachel incident. They never noticed the tall man with unusual eyes helping his very ordinary wife carry groceries. Inside the house, our daughter is learning to walk. She has my dark hair and his galaxy eyes, and when she laughs, the lights flicker because she hasn't learned to control the brightness yet. Kay says she is loud in the way all children are loud, bright, unfiltered, impossible to ignore. When she grows up, she will probably hear thoughts the way her father does, but when she reaches for me, her mind goes quiet, just like her mother's. And that, Kay tells her every night as he rocks her to sleep with 4 gentle arms, is the most precious sound in the universe. The silence where love lives.